I'm Hemin Temetza.
I'm Jessica Blumke.
And you're listening to the podcast for FriendlyAtheist.com. Jessica recently attended the Amazing Meeting, a skeptics conference in Las Vegas, where she had the chance to talk to a number of amazing people.
For this episode, I was joined by bloggers Vandy Beth Glenn, Beth Ann Erickson, and Rebecca Bradley from the Skeptic Ink blog network. We had a great talk about blogging in the skeptics and atheist community and some of our favorite blog posts. Welcome to the podcast for the Friendly Atheist. This is Jessica Blumke. I'm here at TAM2014, and I am joined today by
Vandy Beth Glenn.
And what do you do?
I'm a blogger with the Skeptic Ink network. I have a blog called Transubstantiation, and I'm a transgender woman and a civil rights pioneer, and I've been coming to TAM since 2011.
My name is Beth Ann Erickson, and I do PR and copywriting in my real job. I also write for Skeptic Ink at Incongruent Elements, and that comes from the advertising term that the best persuasion comes from the juxtaposition of incongruent elements as an honest liar. I mean, it's just two things that is kind of jarring, and it's really cool. This is my first TAM.
Yeah. I'm Rebecca Bradley. It's also my first TAM, though not my first conference. The last conference I went to was 20 years ago. It was still Psychop, and the lead speaker was Carl Sagan. I am a retired archaeologist, and I also write science fiction, fantasy, and a blog for the Skeptic Ink network, like these guys.
And it's fun.
And it's called The Lateral Truth, and it's a mixture of talking about pseudo-archaeology and psychotic messiahs and things like that.
Sure, of course. Things like that.
Yeah.
Psychotic messiahs, I love it.
Excuse me. So I met you all the other day when you were doing your workshop about kind of blogging and skepticism. So I want to give kind of a little overview about what that workshop was about. Anybody?
Sure. Well, the subtitle was The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which I think was chosen just to give us a loose framework around which to design our remarks. Our colleague Jacques, of course, used the excuse to make up a bunch of slides referencing the spaghetti western, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, with Clint Eastwood. I decided to focus on the good, more specifically, how to find ideas for skeptic blog posts, because I had been blogging for a while at my own website when I was invited to join the Skeptic Ink network, and initially I was concerned that I would have trouble thinking of things to post about, because I'm not a scientist. I don't have a formal background in the sort of topics that are normally discussed in skeptic circles.
Well, I completely understand that fear. When I started writing for Friendly Atheist 2 years ago, I definitely, and I'm not sure if you all have had this experience, but I had that moment of like, why am I writing? Like, why does anybody care what I have to say? What am I bringing to the table? That's interesting. But you and I definitely have a different approach to blogging, because I do almost all news-based stuff. Like, something's happened in the news, I'm going to relate it and probably make fun of somebody, because that's sort of my jam. But you tend to do more, this happened to me today, and this is what I'm thinking about. Is that an accurate summation? Like, this is a thing I experienced, and let's talk about it. Or is that not?
I guess that's fair. I never thought about it in those terms. I do generally not post about things that are newsworthy, because I'm such a slow writer and so prone to procrastination. By the time the post actually got up, it would be something that nobody even remembers anymore. So yes, I try not to be sensitive to that sort of to the news cycle when I write my posts. Generally, I just live my life, as I said in the workshop, and when something occurs, when something happens to me, or I read something or hear something that sounds a little off or questionable, then I'll research it and then write a post about it. I think there's a post there.
What about the two of you?
Well, like you, I don't think fast enough for the news. And I think this is Rebecca. I think I'm a reasonable writer, but a very bad blogger, because I don't do it fast enough. I blog on the OCD model, where everything has to be researched and re-researched and re-researched. It's sort of like, I'm an ex-academic, what can I say? and then it has to be...
Basically, we're telling you we're deeply dysfunctional people.
Yeah, we're deeply dysfunctional, anyway, so by the time I get a blog post up, I'm sick of it. and it can take me... we are supposed to blog. Our terms of contract with the Skeptic Ink network is we're supposed to do it at least once every 2 weeks. And I get a blog post up and I think, that's it for now. And then, boy, those 2 weeks go quick. But I try and do at least once a week, actually. But no, I tend to be very much more in the academic, put up an article that has been vetted to where I could try and, send it to a magazine sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely different from my experience. Mine is literally, I read about a thing and write about it, and it could be up within an hour.
Yeah.
So if there are typos, that is why. How about you?
Well, no, this is where it gets kind of interesting, because the people at Skeptic Ink are super smart. They're PhDs. They're all these fabulous. And then there's me. I'm like you. My life has been advertising. I don't know why I'm there. Sometimes I keep asking my son, why am I a Skeptic Ink? And he's like, well, you're the comic relief. I'm like you. I find a news story, and my whole life since I've been writing advertising has been about persuasion, how to persuade. And I spend I'll write for a while, and I'll put on my earbuds, and I'll listen to some John Carlton, he's one of my heroes, on my walk, and then I'll write for a while, then I'll put in my earbuds, I'll listen to Bob Bly for a while, and he's talking about all these other little techniques to persuade and such. And the reason I write skeptically, for Skeptic Ink, is because I am fascinated by the way we try to persuade each other in the skeptic community, and we're really bad persuaders, generally
Within
speaking.
It, or
all
persuade
of it.
Other people?
All of it. How we persuade each other, how religious people try to persuade each other or persuade us. And, the persuasion process is just utterly fascinating to me. And so when I approach my writing on Skeptic Ink, it's generally pretty short, because generally my readership in my real job has short attention spans. I've spent years studying the National Enquirer to master that really easy reading style. And because if you're going to sell, you have to reach the actual, the general public. Mm-hmm. And that's sadly what I do, and I'm like totally odd man out, but that's okay. That's who I am.
She's far too modest. She's very smart.
Yes.
Well, and there's a place for that. We can't all, be talking about big, broad concepts. There has to be a place for quick ideas and, kind of bite-sized nuggets of information, right?
I would hope that there's room for us.
Because here we are.
You and I, but yeah, there has to be room for everybody in the skeptical movement. Isn't the point not so much to persuade, but we want to plant, I want to plant seeds of doubt and get people thinking. I want to start, we don't do enough thinking. And as an advertiser, I can attest to the fact people don't think a lot. It's far too easy sometimes to kind of sort of guide them. But if you teach someone to kind of start looking for other sources of information, don't just read one, for example, just read Huffington Post. I also read Drudge Report because I want to understand. Mm-hmm. I want to understand. I watch MSNBC and I watch Fox News and I watch CNN, and CNN doesn't, But, you want to kind of know what everybody is thinking, especially if you wanted to ever, target a post to these people. You want to speak their language. If you want to target a post to these people, you want to speak their language. It's all about communication, and unless you have a lot of communication is about listening, just listening, because you want, until you can understand, people don't believe dumb things for no reason. They don't think those beliefs are dumb, and you're not going to change their mind by insulting them. You're not going to change their mind by demeaning them. You certainly aren't going to change their mind by calling them names. You have to make a connection. And until we learn how to make a connection, there's an old saying in internet marketing, know me, like me, trust me, buy from me. So you have to let people know you, and then they might like you if you're likable. Trust me. And then maybe the buy from me part in our world is maybe they'll start thinking. We may not always agree, and I don't want to agree because sometimes I'm wrong.
Never.
Yeah, I hate that so much. I wish I was queen of the world. I wish I knew everything. But I'm so not. I'm so not.
One thing you said in your talk, I think it was you, when you talked about that moment of embarrassment when you walked out of the bathroom and had your...
4th grade, I tucked the back of my dress into the waistline of my tights. I'll never forget that feeling. I sashayed into the classroom, and all of a sudden, the boy I had a crush on laughed at me. It hurt so much. But it's that feeling of exposure. You know, what are we selling? When you write, you're selling yourself. We are our own products, and we have to somehow let them get to know us. And when our readers get to know us, it's a feeling of vulnerability that really can hurt. Especially when sometimes someone will come in, and I have been called bad names. And I don't ask for much, and I'm not always right, and I don't pretend to know I'm right. Even today, there was a controversial talk yesterday, and I mentioned it was one of my favorites because it made me think about things that I hadn't thought of before. I may be wrong on some things, and that's okay. Because I, too, get a little rush when I realize I've changed my mind.
Yeah, and I think...
Based on new evidence.
Exactly. We're doing it.
Makes me feel smart.
Well, and there is a feeling of exposure as a blogger because and I think everybody here writes under their name. Nobody...
Yeah.
Because there are definitely people who write under pseudonyms, which is
Fine.
a completely understandable step to take. When I started writing for the blog a couple years ago, I was cautioned by people saying, "Are you sure this is the right thing for you to do for your career, for your life? Because you Google my name and it's Friendly Atheist all day, and that's that's a risk. That's a risk you can take to be attached to that."
Have you had any blowback from it?
Well, it's hard to say. I haven't that I know of, but I also spent a lot of my time job hunting. And who knows? And I'm not going to pretend that I had a hard time finding a job because of that, because that seems dumb to just blame it. But I also can't say that because people Google it.
There's no way you can know.
There's no way to know about it. That being said, if I hadn't started doing the blog, I never would have gotten the job I have now because, I write for a living now, and I had amassed this massive body of work because I wrote for the blog. So either way, I know it opened more doors than it potentially could have shut, I think.
Well, you win a few.
I have to think that.
You win a few, you lose a few. That's kind of what life is like, Because when I started, I was just stupid. I was like, yeehaw, I got a new blog. And I just wept up my name thinking there would be no repercussions. And then a few days later, I was like, I'm kind of a shoot, then aim kind of gal, unfortunately. What do you guys think?
Yeah, have you had repercussions that you can...
None that I know of. Certainly not from my Skeptic blog. But, I am unemployed right now. And looking for work, and I just assume that potential employers are going to Google my name now, and so any job I apply to, they're going to learn that I was a plaintiff in a federal lawsuit, and I sued a previous employer for firing me. So I have to think that that's going to enter into the calculus of any employer when they decide whether to hire me.
Right, but you can't. You have to do the right thing at that time, and I don't know. That's
Well, it's not like I can hide it. There's no. And so by the time it came to skeptical blogging, there was already so little mystery left about who I am that I don't think there's much potential harm in what I do as a skeptic.
Sure. What about in the academic world? I feel like the academic world tends to skew more skeptically, right?
Well, yeah. I'm not writing for the academic world. I'm writing from the perspective of one who was bathed in it for decades. Most of my blog posts are not really controversial. They're more sort of informational and analytical and so forth. I have done the odd controversial one and did get some blowback from it, which is fine. You have to expect it. I'm a chill girl, yay! Or I've been called such, and a few other names as well. But you roll with the punches. If everybody in the world liked what you wrote on the internet, there'd be something wrong with what you wrote. I think. So, and I get some of the pseudo-archaeology ones I do, analyzing things like, I did one on Graham Hancock, and a few others, and got some Graham Hancock fans on saying, don't you know that archaeology is I can't remember how it was put, but archaeology is a priesthood trying to keep out the amateurs, etc. And
a priesthood?
Oh, a priesthood. Well, yes, a closed brotherhood where only initiates are allowed to have opinions. So it's it's the same as with pseudo-medicine, alternative health, that sort of thing, where people who actually have academic expertise that they have studied for decades to get and worked in and so forth are regarded as suspect because they are on the inside of the academic world, and the amateurs kind of find them very suspicious. They think that their ideas are being rejected because those of us on the inside, the initiate, the priesthood, are closed-minded. Whereas in fact, mostly we've seen the same ideas that they're bringing forward as new ideas debunked again and again and again. We're aware of the whole database. We know why those ideas make no sense at all. But no, it's because we're a closed-minded initiate. So I had, got some blowback like that every so often, but that's life.
It's going to come with the territory.
Yeah.
Not to put anybody on the spot, but can you all think of a blog post that you're just like specifically really proud of? Like, I really nailed this one. I feel good about it. I got good response. Does anything come to mind?
Oh, all of them.
I wrote one a few months ago that I titled "Truth Matters," which was inspired by something a friend of mine said on Facebook. There are all these sites these days that are I guess satirical, but they're not actually funny, and their content is actually not really far enough away from reality for you to easily mark them as satire. So that, it's like they're trying to be the Onion, but they don't really know how. And a friend of mine posted one of these on a link to one of these stories on Facebook, and I responded. I'm pretty sure that's fake news. I mean, characterized a particular political persuasion in a particular manner. And his response was, well, okay, maybe this was a fictional story, but I know there are people like this.
I have had that exact same interaction. And it was somebody who I otherwise respected, and it was,
exactly,
I can't believe so-and-so said this, and I said, I don't think that's real. And he was like, well, she probably would say that. And I was like, oh, you can't do that.
Yeah, and I made this post that I titled "Truth Matters," and I related that anecdote, and I also talked about Dan Quayle. I remember. There were all sorts of jokes about Dan Quayle's many misstatements when he was vice president, and one that was very famous was after a trip to South America. He's reported to have said, "I wish I'd studied Latin when I was in school, so I could have understood the people in Latin America better." Yes, but he didn't actually say that. He never said that. But I remember at the time, I learned that he had not actually said that when someone shared it with me, and the person said, well, yes, but he really is dumb enough to have said that. And so my post was, "Truth Matters," was basically saying that the truth is important, and we're basically creating a fictional reality for ourselves when we act as if literal truth is not something that is important.
Yeah.
And it got a lot of positive attention from people, and I was very proud of the sentiment.
It's great to put something out that you're just like, I nailed that. I did great.
Right.
How about you?
I think probably one of my favorite posts was one that I wrote about. Last year I was diagnosed with cancer, and it was an awful year. But the one thing that made it probably worse than anything is I got a ton of email from people telling me to read this book called The China Study, because if I only went vegan, my cancer cells would dissolve and disappear, and I would become, I don't know, I'd probably become wealthy and rich also, I don't know. And so I was doing research on this phenomenon, wondering, whoa, if I, of course, talked to my oncologist, and he said, no. And so I thought, this could be a little post. And there's really nothing written skeptically about this China study in T. Colin Campbell until that would rank really well in Google. And so I kept digging and digging and digging. And I found, there was just a little bit on Quack Watch, but then I found Harriet Hall had written some really great takedowns of it. And I think I found another one. And so I was able to, through all this, write a post with a search engine optimized, T. Colin Campbell claims he can cure cancer, and then slowly take down some of the claims and explain why, first of all, it was not peer reviewed. Second of all, it was he used a casein, which is some crazy milk protein that nobody eats in its pure form. Thirdly, he could reverse cancer in the liver of genetically modified rats. I mean, you're kind of seeing how and so the vegans have taken this saying, don't eat dairy because it'll give you cancer. And so, it was kind of cool that way. And I don't know what kind of traffic it gets because I don't really keep track of traffic, but I do know that post is doing pretty decent on Google. So if somebody is diagnosed with cancer, they can Google T. Colin Campbell, and hopefully they'll find that, and maybe, just maybe, they'll get treatment. And I don't know, it just made me feel like goosebumps just thinking about, all the alternative health people. As I was researching this, I found whole forums where they were saying, don't get colonoscopies, don't get mammograms. You don't want to get in the medical industrial complex. And I was like, they found my cancer. I had no symptoms. I had nothing. I was perfectly healthy. Went in for my colonoscopy. I was ready to go home and eat a piece of watermelon. They said, you can't go home. You got this huge tumor. I would never have known it. They said it would have been inoperable in 2 years. I'd be dead in 5. And only because I happened to go in, and my doctor said, yes, you're a certain age, go in and get it. I'm alive because of preventative screening, and I don't know, it just really, really, really angers me when I see an anonymous internet doctor advising people he's never seen to not follow their family physician's recommendations. And so that's why I'm the most proud of that post, because I'm hoping it can make a little difference in the world somehow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, sweetie, that's a very hard act to follow.
I know.
I'm sorry.
Mine sounds so trivial. I'm doing a series on messiahs, as I said, that kind of traces out all the things that all sorts of different cults and movements and so forth have in common. And anyone can trash Jim Jones or L. Ron Hubbard or people like that. But I was very pleased with the one I did trashing Gandhi. And,
wow.
Yes. And just showing the darker side and showing what characteristics he had in common with all sorts of other people whose reputations are far more malignant. And that was, a lot of people would consider that on the same level with trashing Jesus, but I'm working up to trashing Jesus. So that was a fun one.
What kind of response did you get? Because I know Christopher Hitchens famously would trash Mother Teresa.
Oh yeah,
that was his kind of jam for a while.
Why did you gesture at me when you said that?
I just because you're clearly, if somebody in this room is Mother Teresa, it's probably you. Okay. You're probably Gandhi.
I'll talk to that.
Do you want to be like MLK or?
Because I look so old.
Oh, MLK. Okay. I have a dream.
You do have a dream.
Actually, the people who responded to that one were people saying, "Good for you."
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been thinking the same thing for some time, or someone of subcontinental extraction who said, "I'm so glad to see Gandhi's dark side exposed." And,
really?
Yeah. So I didn't actually get blowback on that one. I have had on some others, but I was a little surprised because I thought I would have the you know,
Sure.
a lot of people say, how can you say such things about this modern saint? And, you know, he wasn't a saint, any or anything like it. But, if you want to know why, read my blog.
Touche.
Good sales.
There you
I
go.
like that a lot.
Yes.
So let's see. This is first TAM for
Yes.
the two of you, and second, fourth. I was close. I was going to get there eventually.
Yeah.
It's my second TAM. Fourth. What do you guys think? What are your impressions?
It's fun. Boy, is it fun. And there's food, all of it, free food.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, I guess we paid for it, really. But, you know, it looks free.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to find out I'm not alone. I live in a small community, and I'm just thrilled to have met these ladies. And
You guys have never met before?
we have never met
This is
before in
a
person.
great thing.
We met the
Oh, that's so
first time we
lovely.
met Skeptic Inkers, and
Yes, there are three others of us around. There's Jacques Rousseau and Ed Clint and Wendy Hughes. And, well, we did that thing, that workshop together, except for Ed, who couldn't be here
we've
too.
emailed before, but that's it.
Sure.
Yeah, so we kind of knew each other, you know, Facebook, email, but
They're all better looking in person too.
Now, is that a comment or is that trashing their photography skills?
I'm just
Be
saying that
careful
one
how you
sentence, sticking to it. I'm way more adorable and good looking when I'm not on film. The film, I tell them, make me like taller, thinner, and younger. They never
I don't know
do.
why they can't do that.
Make my voice young and gorgeous.
That's on you, Mikey.
Yeah, there you have it.
Yeah, I think that's a common thread is that people, you know, even I live in Chicago, and most of my friends are at most non-believers, and I can freely talk about the fact that I'm an atheist, but still there's something about being here that is the sense of community is very real and very.
Vandy didn't answer.
Oh,
Well, as I said, this is my fourth, and it seems like something really cool happens to me every year. Like one year, I met Neil deGrasse Tyson, and last year I met Ed Clint at the Skeptic Ink table and talked to him for a while and gave him my card, and that's what led to my becoming a member of the Skeptic Ink.
Oh, really?
Board. Right.
so that's a TAM.
Yeah, that would not have happened if I had not come to TAM. And then, of course, this year I was a presenter for the first time, and it was very, very exciting, very rewarding, and something I'd like to do again. So, yeah, I think as a skeptic, I've become a little bit better established each year, and TAM is definitely a big part of that.
yeah.
And I think we should say a word thanking Ed Clint for his hard work in getting the Skeptic Ink
It's a
together
great,
and
huge
kind of
meeting.
sort of talking some of us into being
He
here.
is amazing.
Yeah, I interviewed him last year, and we have since become friendly, and he couldn't be a nicer guy. He's a really wonderful person.
A lot of work.
Should have invited him. What's he doing? Might
Oh,
go find him.
he's here, there, everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, like the Scarlet Pimpernel.
But yeah, I think,
We're his proxies.
yeah, you're here on his behalf.
He sends us to do all the dirty work.
What's he thinking right now?
Lunch.
Clairvoyant on top of it all.
Who'd have thought it? At TAM, we'd find a clairvoyant. Well, you know, we're starting to get close to a half hour, so, I don't know, I usually try to think of a clever last question.
Well, tell us what you think of TAM. That's how we'll end it. What do you think of TAM?
Because everyone's like, we need more Jessica talking. You know what? I came here last year and I had no idea what to expect. And it was truly remarkable. I had the opportunity to sit down with these people who I've admired for so long. And I think if I had to sum it up, I feel like, and I bet you can relate to this, I feel like everybody around me is so much smarter than me, but somehow I feel smarter around them. You know?
Osmosis.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I don't feel repressed by how smart everybody is. I feel
empowered to do a little reading when I get home.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's that. So, if everybody wants to give their either Twitter or just restate your blog where people can find you, we'll do that to close up, and then we'll call it a day.
Okay. my Twitter handle is Red Velvet Cakes, at Red Velvet Cakes. My Skeptic Ink Network blog is skepticink.com/TS, and the full name is Transubstantiation. And then I also blog at my own personal site, which is vandybethglenn.com.
Great.
My Twitter handle is Beth Ann Erickson. My Skeptic Ink space is Incongruent Elements. And then I also have, it's a PR blog, BethAnnErickson.com, but I don't know if it's really relevant for the, I have to stick to the same name because I just can't remember all the pseudonyms. And I'm not going to remember Incongruent Elements.
I don't tweet. I just never got into that yet. I need a lesson. And I'm bad at it. The blog, Rebecca Bradley, the blog is skepticink.com/lateral truth, all one word. And that's me.
Okay. Well, I want to thank all three of you for joining me. This was a lot of fun. I'm really glad y'all could make it. And thank you for joining us as well at home or in the car or wherever you are.
And thank you.
Thank you, guys. And so this has been the blog for friendlyatheist.com. You can always find more information at friendlyatheist.com. And thank you for joining us.
Thanks for listening to the podcast for friendlyatheist.com.
Our theme song was written and performed by Brad Chagdis, and thanks to Michael Greif for helping us with on-site recording.
If you like what you're hearing, please consider making a contribution at patreon.com/Hemant. That's He-Man T. We appreciate your support. I'm Hemant Mehta.
And I'm Jessica Blimke.
We hope you join us next time.